I often work with coaches. I do this on a very, very big scale internationally that are in all sorts of throes of success. So let's label a couple of them. Some people come to me and they're in full on growth, right? This might be you. Full on growth and flow, right? Everything's going well. And they come to me to strategize or navigate their ship, right? And how to maintain homeostasis. Interesting thing about success that a lot of people don't know is when you achieve it and you've been taught, careful what you ask for, you just might get it, right? A lot of times we have to learn how to manage success. I know a lot of millionaires that have never been millionaires before. So they get there and then there's this fear of overwhelm. That's the fear of success. So sometimes we have to talk about handling, navigating, and strategizing how to embrace it, control it, and continue to grow to the next level. You never want to stop and say, I'm done, right? So it's all about like maintaining homeostasis and harmony in their lives and not let the business growth. This is another danger. This is why on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, I host a room called The Integrated Life, because we have to learn how to not just chase the money and let other things that are even more important or as important fall by the wayside. We all know what it's like to become filthy rich at the expense of having a divorce and being stressed out as a workaholic. So, homeostasis and harmony in their lives and not let the business growth and success overshadow the things that they claim matter most. So we've got to get our shit together in that sense. Now, on the other hand, the second type of person that I work with are people coaches that express frustration. So there's that word frustration, and claim that they're stuck and offer a potential hypothesis, right, that they are doing something wrong. See, I call it a potential hypothesis because when somebody tells me that they're stuck, they have to justify and explain why they're stuck, because I don't see the stuck. So they have to say, here's why I'm stuck. And that's when we make these excuses, we pull out hall passes, and we're so good at justifying why we have this unique situation where we're at a disadvantage opposed to other people, right? And we're gonna get into that. So they'll say things like they're doing something wrong or campaign that either they are not cut out for the job or the timing is wrong. I always find that interesting when I coach and mentor people that claim that they're stuck. Without me asking, they explain why they're stuck to me. And then I say, well, then what do you need my help for, right? Interesting. So in observation of the difference, so now what I like to do is I like to look at the difference between the stuck and the unstuck person, the person in full-on growth and flow and the person campaigning for their stuckness, right? So in observation of the difference between the two groups, the smallest advantage the successful group has over the frustrated group is an actual external advantage. What I mean by that is it's almost non-measurable. Right? This idea that one person has an advantage. Sometimes you can see it. Maybe they already have some skill sets. Maybe they have a community of people, but that's the smallest advantage that I see. In fact, most of the time I don't see any advantage, meaning their opportunity is not better than the others, right? So I'll see two individuals from the same town, same timing, and you know this, same situation, yet two men enter and one man leads. Now, it could be women as well, right? So two humans enter, one human leads. And what that means is same situation, one wins, the other one doesn't. That's fascinating to me, and I like to break it down. I write about it. It's in my book and all that stuff. It's a very interesting perception. So meaning the successful group doesn't actually have an actual situational advantage, right? Now, the unsuccessful group can make that up and say, here's what the advantage is, but that's only because they're seeing them like a lot of people would perceive me in their polished state. They don't know what's under the water in that tip of the iceberg. Maybe even they were at a less advantage than them. So I do see two primary differences though, and I have unveiled that, and that's the purpose of this Rise Up. I see two primary differences in the attitudes and daily activities. So now all of a sudden, we're moving into the controllables, not the uncontrollables. You see, when you think somebody has an advantage over you, you think that that's not under your control. Not fair, you'd say something like that. That's attached to uncontrollable. I'm saying the differences that I see between the two categories of people are in your control, and they are the attitudes and daily activities. Anybody can change their attitude and anybody can change their daily activities. So the stuck and frustrated group, let's call them Group B, right? Group B has an explanation. This is what I notice about them. They have and by the way, I spent a lot of my life in Group B, right? They have an explanation of why they aren't successful and can describe every element to a T as to why they are struggling. That's Group B. They're very good at explaining that. Group A doesn't even know that they can't succeed. They just assume that everybody does because they're in this flow state and they just have sometimes they don't even know how to explain what it is that they're doing that succeeds. How are you so successful? And they go, I don't know, isn't everybody? Right? So that's one of the things. So that's the attitude, that's a perception, right? They claim, Group A, the successful group, they claim the task is fun and easy and look at their future with limitless abundance. That's what they say. Yeah, they go, oh, the sky's the limit, right? What does it say? Almost carting the observation of being ignorant and naive. So basically what they're saying is what I'm saying is I notice that they're ignorant and naive to the situation, meaning they're like, yeah, I don't know, right? So that's something that I notice in Group A. They just don't know that failure is an option, right? Now, who taught you that failure was an option, right? Your mother, your father, your teacher, your preacher, and the feed wall, right? The comparative reality of social media and all that stuff. That's where you learned that you can be unsuccessful and fail. These people, for whatever reason, don't know that they can fail. So when you don't know you can fail, you don't stop and you keep moving forward. So the second differential, so that's the first, right? That has to do with attitude. The second differential is in observing their work ethic and daily activities. So let's get into consistency now. Group B, the potential stuck or unsuccessful group, they go on runs driven by things like this: timing, motivation, and are acutely attached and aware to the outcomes and payoffs of their activities along the way each and every day. So here's what that means. They think that success requires belief, timing, and motivation, and they're always in observation and measuring their return on investment. You know, I notice a lot of people that spend a lot of time saying, well, what's my return on investment? They're analyzing too much. What happens if I spend time and I waste my time doing this, right? And the successful group, they don't really think like that. They just say, I'm going to get this and I'm going to do anything that I have to. So ask that Group B if they had a successful day, and they always correlate their answer based on the outcome assessment of their day's action. So I asked Group B, the stuck group, well, what did you do today? Did you have a good day? And rather than telling me what they did that day, they base the good or bad day on the results that they got. And the markers for the results are wins that very often take a long time to achieve. You follow me? So Group A, on the other hand, the unconsciously competent, successful group, are unconsciously driven more by the long-term end goal and understand that the process of attaining that long-term end goal is leveraged. This is the way they think. It's leveraged by the long-term commitment to focusing on the accomplishments of the daily activities and don't judge each day on the outcomes of the activities. Here's what I'm saying right there. The successful group in observation is more focused on the daily activities than the results of the daily activities. It's almost as if they know something. They know a secret. They know that if they keep doing what they're doing, eventually something good's going to happen, right? Which is interesting because how do they know that, right? Maybe it's because their mentor is just saying, here's how it works. So more so, they judge, Group A, they judge the day on whether or not they followed through. If they say they had a good day, they judge it based on whether or not they followed through on the activities rather than the fruit that those activities are going to bear, right? So let me give you an example. If you are in a business model where you do X, Y, Z, and your intention is to acquire clients, right, for whatever it is that you do, at the end of this day, do you say that you had a good day based on the amount of clients you signed up, or on whether or not you followed through on the activities that will leverage the idea of having clients one day. That's group A and group B. Because if you keep on looking at the scale every day when you're trying to lose weight, what if the scale says something that you don't like? Does that mean you're failing? Or does that mean that the good news is coming tomorrow or a week from now or 2 weeks from now? So you see how dangerous it is to look at outcomes. Very important to get rid of outcomes. You have to have a way of tracking whether or not you're moving to an outcome with your mentorship and things like that. But very, very careful not to look at the scale and the bank account every single day. And it's not easy. I remember doing that. So group A also reports being in a state of gratitude. This is another thing that I notice about successful people, being in a state of gratitude for the opportunity and potential for growth as well. They're grateful. Remember, same two people, same situations. But this one group of people look and they go, I'm just grateful for this opportunity. They look and say, you put two people in a room. It's that old story. You put one person in a room full of beautiful colors, paintings, music, and candy, and the other person you put in a room full of just horse crap, right? The person in the room full of colors and candy, you ask, how are you doing? They go, oh my God, it's too bright in here. The music's too loud and the candy's going to make me get cavities. And then the other person, you go in there and they're rummaging through all the shit and they go, how you doing? They go, hey, with all this crap, there's got to be a pony somewhere, right? So it's just an attitude. It's a perceptual shift of what it is, right? So I've found it hard to teach group B. Right? So remember, this other group A, is in a state of gratitude for potential and opportunity. I found it hard to teach group B to adopt the headspace of group A. So if you just don't see things a certain way, it's hard for somebody else. We can show you, but if you can't see something, showing you something means nothing. Right? So I found it hard to teach and mentor group B to adopt the headspace of group A as it comes instinctually from their upbringing, right? So group B has their mother, father, teacher, preacher led them to believe, and they've created this, sensory suit, all their senses that give you perception of things. Their perception of things is just different. It's very hard to change that. I can't just give them a new virtual reality headset. That comes later, and and I'm going to tell you how we do it to experience life differently. So how does group B step into the arena of play and flow of creating success? So if you're in group B right now and you go, that's me, right? Nobody's looking. I'm listening to a podcast. I'm in Clubhouse. I'm watching this video. That's me, right? How do I move forward? Can I be successful? 100%. So the key here is to step into, right? You have to step into this thing that I'm about to talk about, right? Not acquire, but step into. The answer is consistency, right? So what I'm saying is release from the acquisition component of it and just step into the actual physicality and work of what we're going to talk about, consistency. So consistency means this. Consistency means to do something with repetition, day in and day out. Naturally, fueled with an understanding of how you have to make sure that these activities that you make a decision to be consistent with are attached and leveraged towards success. So how do you find that out? You have to be talking to somebody, laying the foundation for these activities that are going to fit into your schedule and you're going to commit to. That has to be delivered to you by somebody that has what you want. Not somebody that knows how to get it, somebody that has what you want, because they can say, this is what I did, this is what others do. So then you can have faith and hope in those activities, right? Because if you're going to be consistent, you're worried about risking time, right? We talk about that a lot. So naturally, these things have to be fueled with the understanding of how those activities support and leverage the desired outcome, which comes from the observation of someone else achieving the outcome doing the same. That's what I was talking about. Just as a quick side note, pretty crazy that I wrote all this crap today. I do that every day. Once you get good at journaling, you start to do some interesting stuff. And all of a sudden, after 9 years of it, you've got a couple books to write. So it takes trust, faith, and hope and understanding, as it's not a normal practice, right? It's abnormal for an inconsistent person to become consistent. It's not a normal practice, and like most, the fear of failure and wasting time is present. So the next phase, right, once we do that, the next phase group B needs, the unsuccessful stuck group, is the detachment of the daily outcome and focus. This is a big challenge, to detach from those markers of outcomes. Detachment from the outcome and focus on the building blocks of creating the first massive steps to success in building discipline around being consistent. What I mean is, you have to look at taking a month or 3 months and just setting a goal to become consistent. Once I see someone start practicing consistency, if I come in there and I go, how's it going? They very often dip back into their old story and say, well, I haven't seen the results yet. And I go, well, but how's it going with your practice of being consistent? And they go, well, I'm doing everything every day and I've done it. I'm on a streak of 3 months. And I go, that's the hardest part. You just remember, an inconsistent person needs to practice long enough so that they transform into a consistent person. Remember, one of the traits of group A is that they're consistent, right? Now, the headspace might be tough to acquire. That'll come along the way. But if you're inconsistent, you are in full control of practicing and developing the habit of being consistent. And I've got a program coming up that's going to help people with that. So the building blocks of creating first massive steps in building discipline and being consistent. So yes, the big win isn't the result of the day and the action steps, rather the execution of them. So look at that word execution. Did you execute today? Well, if you executed today, you are on your way. And what's the first goal? Becoming consistent. What makes this hard for group B is their headspace and their fear of wasting time and self-doubt, etc. So they must rely on faith and hope and trust from their mentorship, their guide, right? Now, just like any habit, after 66 days, look at the science of habit forming, 66 days or more, right? The set activities that you're practicing become unconscious. That's what a habit is, an unconsciously competent thing, right? Good or bad, that's what a habit is. And the chances of having enough wins to validate them are extremely high. So understand that if you start practicing consistency and you're going to judge it after a week or two, you lose. If you take that leap of hope and faith and practice consistency in your business acumen or your health practice or your mindset, you need to let that happen for 66 days before you even become consistent or it becomes habitual. And also, I'm pretty certain after 66 days, you're not only going to become consistent, you're going to see results. Detached from the results, attached to the action steps. So, coming to a close, the wins are coming, yet due to the new nature of being consistent and the need to sharpen skills along the way with experience, patience, this is another thing that other people have, patience, right? With all this poop, there's got to be a pony somewhere, right? He's looking for the pony. Patience and detachment from the outcomes are necessary. So that's another skill set you have to practice. Sometimes you have to bite down. Sometimes you need accountability, but you have to practice and sharpen that sword every day. So here's the deal. In order to step into, as I said, step into the flow of success that Group A has, the X factor that Group B has full control over is not headspace, right? That comes later after they build. Remember, headspace is something that comes from a reflection on activities over a certain amount of time. So if you all of a sudden create this headspace that you're successful, that's when you get to the top of the mountain. That's not the top of the mountain that gives you that. That's when you look back at the climb and you go, oh, makes sense why I feel that way. So that's another thing about Group A. They have the headspace, and if I ask them why, and they really try to justify it, they'll go back to the climb of the mountain and say, well, this is my experience. So by practicing consistency, you're rewriting your story and creating a new experience that leads to a headspace that you're successful. Now, warning, you could do stupid stuff with consistency for 66 or more days and then make that go on autopilot and then really screw up. So that's the deal, right? Group A has that. And the X factor is that Group B has to do the activities and not focus on the headspace, not believe in it. You don't have to believe in it, right? You just have to do it. That's where belief comes along the way. So that comes later after they build discipline and consistency. So it's consistency that is a skill set that anyone can build, and it's consistency that wins the race. So